and welcome back to the Movement Lesson Sports Academy. In this video, in preparation for the Ryder Cup, we're going to take a look at the swing of the top ranked player in the world, that's America's Dustin Johnson. But first, we're going to take a look at the top European going into the Ryder Cup, and that is Spain's Jon Rahm. Looking at Rahm first now, two things to look out for throughout this analysis. Firstly, rotation. Rotation is going to be a key feature of both swings, and the second element is the pelvic strike and the use of the hips. Right here, and we're just going to stop it there. There's his backswing, and the first thing to note is how the hips start each movement. We're going to slow this right down so you can see. Slow the slow-mo down. Watch it, the top of the backswing, it's his hips that started the movement there. Look at his hips that have started. The hips come through first, followed by the shoulders, and then finally there's the arms and the hands coming through. Really significant is it's the hips that are starting the movement. You're going to see it with both players, how key the hips are, that pelvic strike is in their swing mechanics. Again, the hips have come through, and then it's the shoulders, then the arms. The pelvis, the hips are what start that movement. That rotation is key. Now, you notice with the arms that the arms are just following the hips, and the hips are leading the spine and are leading the shoulders through. Now, there's a great video in here to actually see. Look at Rahm's eyes on the ball, and look how steady his eyes are, look how steady his head is, and look at the shoulder rotating around underneath. It's like it's just spinning round on a pole. The head's still, and it's that final, it's the back shoulder that's bringing him through, whereas the shoulders are rotating all the way around. I'm going to take another look at Rahm's swing, and what's noticeable is the amount of rotation that his spine goes through. As you see the top of the swing here, let him finish walking through the crowd, taking the applause. If you look at the top of that swing there, it's his entire back is facing down the fairway. That's the amount of rotation. His head, his eyes are over the top of his left shoulder, looking down at the ball. His head's going to stay still, and his back from facing the fairway is going to come all the way through. So it's going to be the shoulders are in an opposite position to what they are now. Arms go down. It's a straight left arm. The hips have started that movement. You can see the hips are further ahead than the shoulders. The hips and the shoulders are nicely integrated. And right around the end of his swing, as you can see there, his back is his left shoulder pointing towards us, and his back's gone all the way round from starting off facing the fairway to coming all the way around with his left shoulder facing towards us. It was that left shoulder that has spun right round almost 360 degrees. See another example of Rahm's swing. You see it on the shorter shots as well. Okay, you see it there. Look at that right shoulder pointing right the way down the fairway, and his back's almost come all the way round, facing the way that his chest was to start the swing, the start of his setup. Again, hips ahead of the shoulders, shoulders coming through. Right shoulder is going to be pointing forward, left shoulder pointing back. Look at the amount of rotation. Now, one thing to note with Rahm, and you saw it a little bit there, but you're going to see it with his tee shots in particular, is when Rahm does come through, look at his left foot, the amount of rotation, significant throughout his body, except for his feet. We could look at a little bit more rotation through his feet. Back he comes here. Hips, and you saw it there, how it was sped up. I'm going to slow that down again. It's his hands that are starting that movement back. You could suggest that it should be the hips that start it back, so that the hips are going to come through exactly the same plane that they've gone out on, which is his hands that take him back. And then watch here, and the slow-mo gets sped up. You see it there, the hips start that movement, through then comes his chest, through come his shoulders, and finally his hands. But look at his feet. Look how he actually rotates his ankle out, and it ends up leaning over his left ankle. It's putting more strain on his left ankle because that foot isn't rotating through, and his back foot could rotate. We could have a little bit more weight transfer as well that would then improve with that rotation and encouraging that weight transfer to come through. And it finishes there, and you can see it there, the back toes pointing down, so the weight is transferred forward, but his weight and his head is all over his right hip, and this left foot is not rotated, it's not in contact with the ground, and he's rolling that ankle. Could be something that ends up being an injury risk for him, could affect his swing down the line. If he starts having trouble with his left ankle, start affecting the consistency. But as you see, the rotation, which should be great, and through the hips, through the spine, through the shoulders, we could have his left knee could rotate a little bit more, and we could have his left foot rotating, so that's also facing forward, taking some of that pressure off his ankle. We'll have one more look at Jon Rahm. Backswing. It's interesting, even the rotation seen through the arms. Look how the forearm, as it comes back, is straight. The forearm's facing towards his body. And the left forearm, the right forearm facing forwards or facing his body. And as he comes through, that rotation is seen as a snap in the wrist, and he actually finishes up. There's a big hip movement to start it off. There's the momentum from the hips, the torque comes from the hips. He follows through, there's a rotation, and now the forearm, the right forearm is facing, the left forearm faces forwards. And once again, we just look at the rotation, the back facing us, and look at the feet again, noticeable there. You can see he's rolled onto that left ankle. And at times here he gets up on his toes this time, but some of his shots, and you notice when you see Rahm, some of his shots he doesn't fully get this back leg onto his toes. There could be more rotation through there, because at times it looks like he's putting a big strain on his knee, on his right knee too. The more that they rotate, the more that he gets up onto his toes, the less strain he's going to put on his knee. You see his head, as we mentioned in the last clip, it's not even over his hips yet. He's out of sync. It needs to put big effort, pulling more strain on the back. The more his whole body is integrated and connected, there'll be less strain on the back, and it does just start to come through. But because his symmetry with his knees are out of line to start with, it means that it's harder for him to come in. He's a big guy, but he still needs to be able to get that head back to help that counterbalance, that counter rotation to get it back in line. Some analysis on Jon Rahm. Rotation, huge. Look at his hips starting that movement, all his torque. And it's not his arms that's driving that ball, it's his whole body, the rotation all the way through his body, starting with his hips, his spine, his chest, his shoulders. Look how it's separated from his head, so he's able to keep his head nice and still. And it's as that back shoulder comes through that it then brings his head up to pick up on the ball quite quickly. And you'll notice there's still a couple of areas that you would look out for down the line with Rahm as his career continues. Could he correct the rotation through his left foot in particular, so that he's not rolling his ankle as much, putting strain on there as he shifts his weight forward? It could be putting a lot of strain over that left ankle, could cause to injury problems. It's going to cause his swing to potentially break down because he's not going to have a solid base and foundation. Improve the rotation through that left foot. We could also look just to encourage that rotation through his right foot, but the rotation through his hips, through his spine, through his chest, through his shoulders, through his arms, fantastic. And that's the key to Jon Rahm's swing.